Hello everyone, hope you're having a great day. On a quiet morning off, Huyen heads back to her familiar garden to pick a few more gourds and apples for the market, planning to grab a little of everything to round out her stall. But while she's away, tension suddenly flares up next door. Huyen's former mother-in-law spots her husband dressed unusually sharp and is instantly suspicious, convinced he's lying so he can secretly visit Huyen. Fueled by jealousy, she hops on a motorbike taxi and rushes over, determined to catch him in the act, only to arrive and find Huyen's house locked and empty. Then comes the twist. As she quietly steps into the garden and sees rows of cabbages, ripe tomatoes, and a flock of plump chickens, the situation takes an unexpected turn. Stick around, because in just one morning, Huyen is racing to sell produce on her day off while facing a truly awkward laugh-out-loud moment right at her own front gate. Since it's her day off, Huyen heads back to the familiar garden to harvest more apples and bottle gourds for the market. There are still plenty of pomelos on the trees, but most of them are on the smaller side, so she decides to leave those for another day. For now, she focuses on what sells best and moves fastest. She asks the garden owner if she can buy some gourds to take to the market, and after a quick friendly negotiation, they settle on a price of 13,000 Vietnamese dong per kilo. They agree to focus on young gourds, which customers prefer because they're tender, easy to cook, and perfect for light soups. Older gourds, which are better suited for porridge and tend to sell more slowly, are mostly left behind. With the plan set, the two of them naturally fall into a rhythm. One person moves through the vines, carefully cutting the gourds and stacking them neatly, making sure each one looks fresh and appealing. Meanwhile, Huyen walks between the apple trees, tasting apples from different branches, sampling one tree at a time before deciding which ones are sweet and crisp enough to harvest. Only the best apples make the cut, those with just the right balance of sweetness and crunch that shoppers at the market will appreciate. The morning feels unhurried but purposeful. This isn't just about picking fruit, it's about experience and instinct. Years of selling at the market have taught Huyen exactly what customers look for. She knows which produce will catch someone's eye, which ingredients home cooks are most excited to buy, and which items are worth carrying even if it means extra effort. Choosing young gourds isn't random, it's a practical decision rooted in how people actually cook. A tender gourd can be sliced, quickly dropped into a pot, and turned into a comforting soup in minutes. That convenience matters especially for busy families. As she works, Huyen chats casually with the garden owner, exchanging small talk while keeping her hands moving. There's a quiet understanding between them built over time. The negotiation over price wasn't tense or dramatic, it was simply part of the routine, a respectful back and forth that ends with both sides satisfied. At 13,000 Vietnamese dong per kilo, the price is fair, good for the seller, manageable for Huyen, and still reasonable for customers at the market. The apples require extra care. Huyen doesn't just pick blindly, she tastes, compares, and chooses deliberately. Some trees produce fruit that looks good but lacks flavor, while others surprise her with bright, juicy sweetness. By sampling as she goes, she ensures consistency, knowing that repeat customers trust her judgment. When people buy apples from her stall, they expect quality, not guesswork. By dividing the work, one cutting gourds, one selecting apples, they save time and energy. The baskets fill steadily, and the sense of progress is satisfying. There is something grounding about this kind of work, hands in the dirt, simple decisions and clear goals. No rush, no pressure, just a steady flow from garden to basket to market. Even though it's her day off, the morning doesn't feel like a burden. For Huyen, this routine is familiar and comforting. The garden is a place she knows well, and every choice she makes here, what to pick, what to leave, how much to buy, is guided by experience. She's already thinking ahead to the market, how she'll arrange the produce, how customers will react, which items will sell first. By the time they finish, the harvest reflects thoughtful selection rather than sheer quantity. Fewer items chosen carefully with a clear purpose. Young gourds that cook beautifully, apples that taste as good as they look, and pomelos saved for another day when they're ready to shine. It's a quiet, efficient morning, one that sets the tone for a successful day at the market and shows how much intention goes into even the simplest basket of produce. Back at the home of Huyen's former in-laws, tension is quietly building, and it doesn't take much to set it off. Huyen's former mother-in-law notices her husband getting dressed more carefully than usual. His clothes are neat, his appearance unusually put together, and to her that alone feels suspicious. In her mind, this isn't just a casual outing. She immediately starts wondering where he's really going, and more importantly, who he might be going to see. Her thoughts spiral quickly. Is he lying? Is he meeting someone else? Or worse, is he planning to sneak over to Huyen's house? The more she watches him, the more uneasy she becomes. She presses him for answers, demanding to know exactly where he's going and what he plans to do. Her tone sharpens as she warns him not to lie, making it clear that if she finds out he's being dishonest, there will be consequences. This isn't a casual question. It's an interrogation fueled by jealousy and long-held insecurity. Her husband, on the other hand, is clearly irritated. Being accused like this hits a nerve. He insists that she's overthinking things and says he's simply going out to meet an old friend for a drink and some conversation. Nothing more, nothing secretive. To him, the accusation feels unfair and exhausting. He's frustrated at having to justify something so ordinary, especially when he believes he's done nothing wrong. But the more he denies it, the more unsettled she becomes. His defensiveness only feeds her doubts. In her mind, his irritation isn't proof of innocence, it's proof that he's hiding something. Old suspicions resurface, mixed with resentment and fear. She replays the situation again and again, convinced that something doesn't add up. Why dress so well just to meet a friend? Why rush out the door? Every small detail becomes evidence in her internal case. Unable to calm herself down, she decides she can't just sit and wait. Words aren't enough anymore, she needs proof. Acting on impulse, she grabs her phone and calls a motorbike taxi. Her decision is sudden but firm. She's going to Huyen's house herself to see what's really going on. If her husband is lying, she wants to catch him in the act. If he's telling the truth, she needs to see it with her own eyes, to finally put her doubts to rest. As she gets on the bike and heads out, her emotions are all over the place. There's anger, anxiety, and a sense of determination driving her forward. She's convinced that this trip will give her the clarity she needs one way or another. In her mind, showing up unexpectedly is the only way to uncover the truth. No excuses, no explanations, just reality. What she doesn't realize is that this impulsive decision is about to pull her into an awkward and completely unexpected situation. What started as a simple suspicion inside her own home is now turning into a full-blown confrontation in the making. And while she's racing toward Huyen's house fueled by jealousy and doubt, she has no idea that things there are not at all what she imagines. This moment marks a turning point. A routine disagreement between husband and wife escalates into action driven by insecurity and unresolved tension from the past. It's a classic case of suspicion, taking control, pushing someone to act before thinking things through. And as the motorbike speeds down the road, one thing is clear: whatever happens next, This decision is going to change the course of the morning in ways no one saw coming. When she finally arrives, the first thing she notices is how quiet everything is. Huyen's house is locked, the gate closed, and there's no sign of anyone home. No voices, no movement, just stillness. For a brief moment she hesitates. This isn't what she expected, but instead of turning back, a new idea begins to form in her mind, one driven by impulse rather than reason. She looks around, checks that no one is watching, and then slips into the garden. What starts as a curious glance quickly turns into something more deliberate. Her eyes land on rows of ripe tomatoes and healthy cabbage growing neatly in the soil. To her, they look too good to ignore. Almost without thinking, she begins picking tomatoes and pulling up cabbages, gathering them as if they were hers to take. In her mind, she justifies it, maybe as compensation, maybe as entitlement, or maybe simply because no one is there to stop her. As she moves deeper into the garden, something else catches her attention, a flock of plump, well-fed chickens pecking around calmly. She pauses, watching them for a moment, and a different kind of temptation sets in. The weather has been cold lately, and the thought of a warm pot of chicken porridge suddenly feels irresistible. For a split second, she even considers grabbing one of the chickens and taking it home. The idea lingers longer than it should. Just as she's lost in these thoughts, reality snaps back into place. Someone appears. It's Jay's mother. Caught completely off guard, she freezes. Her confidence disappears instantly, replaced by panic. She scrambles to think of an explanation, her mind racing for something, anything that sounds reasonable. In a rush, she blurts out that she only came by to visit her grandchild. She claims she didn't know the child was at school and had planned to stop in briefly. But her body language betrays her words. She hurriedly hides the bag of vegetables she's just taken, clutching it close and trying to keep it out of sight. Her movements are awkward and unnatural, and it's clear she wants to leave as quickly as possible. She mutters something about bringing gifts another day, saying she'll come back later with proper presents, then quickly asks to be excused and heads for the exit. Jay's mother watches the entire interaction quietly. Something doesn't feel right. She notices the way the woman avoids eye contact, the way she rushes her words, and most of all, the strange contradiction in her story. If she truly came with gifts, why hide them? And if the gifts were meant for the child, why take them away again? The explanation doesn't add up, and the more Jay's mother thinks about it, the more suspicious the situation becomes. She doesn't confront her directly. Instead, she stands there observing, letting the woman leave without saying much. But the questions linger. The visit feels staged, the excuse poorly put together. It's clear that whatever the real reason for coming was, it wasn't simply to check on a grandchild. As the woman hurries away clutching her hidden bag, the tension she leaves behind hangs in the air. What was meant to be a quiet, empty house has suddenly become the center of an awkward and revealing encounter. The locked door didn't stop her curiosity, it redirected it, and her impulsive decision to step into the garden has now exposed more than she intended. For Jay's mother, this moment plants a seed of doubt. She may not yet know the full story, but she knows enough to sense that something unusual just happened. The odd behavior, the rushed exit, the mysterious gifts, none of it feels innocent. And as she looks around the garden afterward, now slightly disturbed, it's clear that this unexpected meeting is only the beginning of a much more complicated situation. What started as suspicion turned into action, and action into embarrassment. And in just a few quiet minutes inside a garden, hidden motives surfaced, leaving behind unanswered questions and a feeling that this morning is far from over. As the days inch closer to Lunar New Year, the feeling of Tet starts to show up everywhere quietly at first, then all at once. In the gardens, people are already busy tending peach trees, grown specifically for the holiday. Every branch, every bud matters. Growers carefully prune, water, and watch the trees, timing everything just right so the blossoms will open at their peak during Tet. A few days too early or too late can mean the difference between a good season and a loss, so there's a mix of hope and nervous anticipation in the air. Out at the market, that same energy is impossible to miss. The Tet market feels different from ordinary days. It's louder, brighter, more alive. Vendors call out to customers, stalls overflow with fresh produce, flowers, and holiday goods, and people move through the aisles with a sense of excitement and purpose. Everyone seems to be preparing for something special, cleaning, cooking, buying, and planning for the most important celebration of the year. Even the cold winter air can't dull the atmosphere. If anything, it sharpens it. Amid all of this, Je's mother finds her thoughts drifting towards something more personal, the future of her son and Huyen. With Tet so close, she feels torn. On one hand, marriage is a joyful thing, something to celebrate properly. On the other hand, everything feels rushed right now. The holiday is just around the corner, and there are already so many things to take care of. Preparing for a wedding at the same time would be overwhelming, and she worries that doing things in a hurry might bring unnecessary stress or regret. She thinks it over carefully and decides that waiting might be the wiser choice. Instead of pushing to get everything done before Tet, she leans toward postponing the wedding until the following year. That way, there's time to choose an auspicious date, one that feels right and brings peace of mind. For her, it's not just about tradition, it's about wanting everything to be settled, thoughtful, and calm. A good beginning matters, especially when it comes to marriage. She plans to take the next step soon. The following day, she intends to go and consult the calendar, look for a good date, and then sit down with Je and Huyen to talk everything through carefully. No pressure, no rushing, just an honest conversation about timing plans and what feels best for everyone involved. In her heart, she wants the two of them to start their life together smoothly, without feeling pushed by the calendar or the holiday rush. Meanwhile, Huyen finishes up her day at the market. Most of her produce sells well in the busy Tet atmosphere, but she's left with a small bundle of bottle gourds. Instead of seeing it as a loss, she smiles and decides to bring them home for family meals. Sometimes what doesn't sell still finds its purpose, just in a different way. After a long day on her feet, the thought of a warm home-cooked dish feels comforting. As evening settles in, a family member comes to pick her up. The market slowly quiets down behind them, the noise fading into the distance as they head home. The winter cold wraps around them, sharp but familiar, and they walk side by side, tired yet content. It's one of those moments that feels simple but meaningful. No big conversations, just shared warmth in the middle of the season's chill. The day closes the way many days do during this time of year, with preparation, reflection, and quiet hope. Tet is coming fast, bringing with it blossoms, markets, family gatherings, and decisions about the future. Between the rush of holiday planning and the calm of everyday life, everyone is finding their balance, moving forward step by step, carried along by the cold winter air and the promise of a new year just ahead.